Okay, what we're dealing with, or hopefully going to deal with tonight, is the concepts of identifying with objects, our appearances and wealth. And I think to just start us off in really entering into this concept and maybe starting to meditate together. And when we talk about meditation, not only is it going to be through just simple silence and engaging in a silent way, but simply learning, simply studying and talking about these aspects, getting us into a state of being conscious is a form of meditation. So I remember one day I was walking and I see this guy and he walks past a car and he's eyeing out the inside of the car. He's like looking inside. And okay, then I see him do it again, maybe a couple of minutes later. And I'm sitting there, I'm actually parked elsewhere, and I see this guy constantly looking into this car. And I said to Sarah, my wife, I said, Sarah, this guy is looking to steal or break into this car. So I got out of my car and I was like, what is going on? What's he doing? And I see him walk off. And I see a couple of minutes later again, this same guy walks past, but now I realize what he was doing. You know what he was doing? He was in the car looking at you've done this before, haven't you? He's looking into the reflection of the car doing his hair. So every couple of minutes, he's walking past this window, looking at his hair, seeing if his hair is done nicely, how's his appearance, what he looks like. And the crazy thing is that our appearance, not only in a physical state, but our appearance in many frameworks, be it our clothing, be it our figure, be it if we are muscular or if we are, whatever we are, in whatever framework or genre of type of being you want to be, our appearance plays a significant role in very much defining who we are. So what tonight's class is going to be about is trying to understand how to engage with appearance. How do we create a healthy engagement with our appearance, that it's not like this guy that every second needs to look at his appearance to give him a sense of confidence, to give him a sense of self, to give him a sense of identity. How are we so far? Do we resonate? Is this an issue that we're dealing with? Like, you guys all look pretty chilled. Chaim, very, very, very nice, put together. Everyone else is nice and put together, but it's a nice winter night, isn't it? You know, so how do you guys feel about appearance? What does it mean to you? How do you, is it something that you struggle with? Is it something that, not the biggest issue, you know people that have issues with appearance? What do you say there, Steele?
It's definitely something I'm aware of. Like even on the way up here in the lift, you know.
Yes.
I was looking in the mirror.
Yes, and so I consciously, because I was giving this class.
Something you do automatically.
You do automatically. So consciously on the way up in the lift today, going up here, I said I'm not looking in the mirror. I'm not going to. Did you look in the mirror?
I actually was thinking of looking in the mirror, but I actually didn't end up looking in the mirror because I had to hold the button to get up. So some divine intervention. No,
that's some seriously divine intervention, yeah. Jess, how do you feel?
Maybe just see how I look.
I guess I see it the same as like, I know that the essence of me is not like what I think, but it's like me observing what I think, and I think it's the same with the essence of me not being what I look like, but what I feel like. So I think there's like a lot of disparities.
Good. So I think what you're saying is really essentially we look at our appearance, and then our appearance can maybe aid in sometimes giving us a different feeling. But what is our identity? Where are we found? How do we create a healthy engagement with our appearance, that it's not something that we are completely addicted to looking at or engaging with? Now, it's not only our appearance that we're talking about. It could be with objects. So if something's stolen, God forbid, or something is lost, there is a very, very deep sense of angst or vacuum, or a sense of bewilderment as to what has potentially happened to your identity. So I don't know if you've ever lost something or you've ever had something destroyed. But recently, we came from holiday and I came home and I saw that this beautiful cow rug that we had there. I think I spoke about it when I was in shul with you still. But I saw this cow rug and it was completely devoured. When I say completely devoured, the sides of the cow rug were sort of gnawed at by the dog, you know? And it got me very, very bewildered. It's sort of like, I felt like, you know, part of my identity was affected because my cow rug had a few bites on the side of it. And people essentially have that type of engagement if their hair isn't a certain way, if their complexion isn't a certain way, if their car maybe on the outside isn't as clean as it could be. So our identity with our object or with our appearance, and then extensively we can then engage with our wealth. So many individuals can pretend or engage with aspects of their wealth as a part of their identity. So understanding that beyond our appearances, which is quite immediate to us, there are other things that we identify with. And I have here identify with as opposed to have a relationship with. But the concept of identifying as this is an extension of you. There's someone in that cupboard we locked up before. Yes. Yeah, I asked a bad question, we kept him locked up. So beyond our appearance, which is something that is daily or something that is very repetitive, there is something that is our association with our objects, our clothing, our vessels, what we have generally. I walk into the lift and there's this mirror. What does the mirror say there, Chaim? It says hello gorgeous on the mirror itself. So one day I walk in and I read hello gorgeous. And then I think to myself, okay, hello gorgeous. And then I look at myself. Okay, as a catalyst from this hello gorgeous. Oh, okay, I'm gorgeous, you know, hello, let me look at myself, yeah.
It wasn't just your wife saying hello.
It wasn't just my wife that says this to me hourly, but the mirror itself was saying hello gorgeous. But then what I realized was essentially just like it was almost like a catch-22 because like I was looking at myself in the mirror, but I wanted to look at the hello gorgeous at the same time to sort of amalgamate those two things together. But then I realized, and it's very much like what Jess was saying, what if the hello gorgeous, which is a catalyst to look at you, what if you is really just another sign to look deeper into you? What about if what you see is really not all there is? And just like the superficiality of that writing on the mirror there that said hello gorgeous, and then you look at yourself, what about if there's a superficiality when an individual sees themselves in a mirror, or they're identifying with some externality? What about if there's a real superficiality, just like it's just words on a mirror? And the indication of, whoa, look at you, not just at the words, look at you. When you look at you, maybe there's a deeper you that's there. Maybe there's a deeper identity that's engaging or there to engage with.
Or it actually makes you identify with Virgin, because it's quite of the brand image.
Okay, however, yeah.
Kind of phrases are
those kind of phrases bring you to associate with a brand that's around there.
Also, I think you may have like a certain image of what gorgeous is in your mind, and you look at yourself and you're like, oh wait, it could kind of like create these feelings of like insecurity.
Yes.
Because you don't see yourself as gorgeous.
Oh.
So I think that comes back to the whole.
Good. So what I think is important is to understand that when there is an unhealthy pressure that is placed on externalities or objects, when an individual is repetitively looking in the mirror, when an individual is constantly evaluating their appearance or what they own or what they wear or how many scratches there are on their car, or if something is lost or ruined, which inevitably life gives us circumstances where our physicality is lost or ruined, and the response to that experience is one of extreme angst, of loss, then what we need to utilize that moment as is a catalyst to question what is our identity, what is the deeper engagement with who we are. So the first source that I want to share with you is a source that's brought down in the Torah. It's found in Genesis. And really this is the first experience of jealousy. And essentially that jealousy is an experience or is an expression where an individual has lost their essence. To feel jealous about something external or jealous about someone else is a lapse in engaging with the deeper self. Once you've lost touch with your deeper self, you automatically feel jealous about your surroundings. Because where do I find myself? It must be in something else. It must be that someone else has something better than me, a better circumstance. So have a look at this circumstance here. So we have the classic case of Cain and Abel. So Abel comes along, following the footsteps of Cain, and brings an offering which is much better and is received by God. And it says, "Vel Kain vel minchasa loisha v'yichal Kain moed v'yipulu ponov." It says that God didn't turn to the offering of Cain, and his face fell. So what does his face falling look like? How do you fall? How does your face fall?
It's like totally dejected.
It's like, well, it means completely dejected, V'yomer Hashem el Kain, lama charalach v'lama naflu fanecha. And then Hashem says back to him, why are you so upset? And why is your face fallen? I mean, there's this obsession with the face fallen. The face being the falling of the face. What's the indication of a falling face? So we know in Kabbalah, if anyone wants a pen to write anything down, you can. I was just at a class this morning, they were all taking notes. It really inspired me. So, if you want to take notes, you can. But you don't have to. But that being said, what's the concept of a face falling? So the word face, panim, in the Torah correlates to another word called panav or bifnim. It's inside of you. Something that's inside of you. You can tell a lot about a person's emotions from their face. In fact, the soul shines through the face. The essence of a person is realized through the face. So essentially what Hashem is saying to Cain is, yes, you failed. Yes, someone else was more successful than you. Someone else has a better car than you. Someone else has a better house than you. Someone else has a better circumstance, in whatever it may be, in a relationship, in their occupation, whatever it may be, there are situations where people have better things than you. It's inevitable. So how do you engage with it? So Cain carries on and he does what? He kills his brother. So the essential feeling is, I need to take that. I want that. That needs to be mine in order to discover the self. But Hashem says there's a different way of engaging. And that is, Lama naflu panecha. Why is your face fallen? Utilize this engagement. Utilize this emotion that you're feeling of angst, of lacking, to now enter into a deeper state. I'll tell you something crazy. I was preparing this class this afternoon, and I put all the sources together, perfectly put all the lines here. You see, I put lines for you that you can write notes on which you're not writing. And, it took me a bit of time. And then there was an application online, and then I click on a button that says visualize, so you can see what it looks like on the page. And as soon as I press visualize, I was like, whoa, I shouldn't have done that. You don't know what the internet's like. If we press visualize, it'll probably take me to another page, and then I'll try and return, I would have lost all the notes. So I press visualize, and it takes me to a dud page. I was like, all right, please, God, please, let me press the return button and get me back to these sources, please. Imagine I spent all this, I had to find this. It was not easy. I have to look it up, find the sources, see which one's what, organize it, get these lines in which I have to manually put in. don't worry, this is not all on you. I will use this source sheet elsewhere, so it's not too much pressure on you. But lo and behold, it doesn't return. I can't get back to the sources. So now, what do? How do I respond to that situation? So I immediately started to feel this angst building in, this heat. Why, type of thing. And then I said to myself, listen, it's very much on what we were learning last time together about why you addicted to negativity. But I said to myself, all right, okay. And what I did was I listened to the situation. I got up, I said, I don't have time now to restructure everything. I have to go downstairs to daven in the shul. But afterwards I'll go up and I'll do it again. But I had 5 minutes left. And what I did with those 5 minutes is I stood there and I just listened to the silence and the stillness behind me. And I just stayed there and I just observed the stillness there. Okay? If I would have had the sources or if I didn't have the sources, those are the same things. If I did have the sources or I didn't have the sources, does anything really change at the end of the day? Okay, I'll have to do it again. All right, I lost out on a bit of time. But that's what Hashem wanted. So now my approach to that circumstance, just calm down. Listen to the stillness, listen to the silence. Now, in circumstances where there is loss, financial loss to our objects, loss in appearance, loss in I had my dog jump on I was wearing a suit and it jumped on me and ripped a hole into my pants. What do you do in that circumstance? But if you just take a step back and you understand that your identity is not essentially there, that there is a deep stillness and silence that underlies that reality, just like the Hello Gorgeous is just a very external reality. There's a deep stillness, a deep presence that underlies it. It alleviates that pressure that you place on these external things. And this is essentially what God is saying to Cain. Cain comes from the word kinyan. Kinyan means to acquire. To acquire something is you want something to be an extension of you. You want to acquire and amass and have things that are extensions of you. But when things go sour, when things get broken, how do you deal with it? Lama naflu fanecha. Enter lifnim, enter inside. Understand that there's something underlying all of these externalities. Now this next source in Mishlei, in Proverbs, says the following. It says, tzedakah tatzil memaves, which means that charity saves from death. What on earth does that mean? How can charity save from death? We have a doctor here. So imagine you go to the hospital and the guy's mum is suffering from some serious illness, and then instead of coming there with a drip and with medicine and with whatever the doctor needs to do, he comes there with a pushka box, he comes there with a tzedakah box, and he says, listen, my advice to you is put in charity. And that's how you're going to save yourself from death.
That's what the rabbi does.
Yeah, maybe that's what the rabbi does. It's a good place to raise funds in the hospital. Yeah? How does a charity save from death? Anyone?
Love is the essence of life and charity is love.
Oh, so you're saying through love, through giving, through a sense of kindness, there's an essence of life. What does it mean that there's an essence of life in love? So if you understand, the act of charity is an act which undermines essentially a constructed reality that's external to you. So if I construct my reality or my definition and base it on my physical infrastructure, my object, my appearance, my clothing, then charity essentially undermines that type of infrastructure, because I want that money. That money is an extension of me. I can buy something with it, can renovate something with it. I can use it to create a better externality. When you give that money away, what it does is it essentially undermines that external fabric. But what it does further than that is it forces you to listen to the underlying presence that's there, with essentially what you've described, Jess, as life. Inner resonance, love, connectivity, giving stems from an inner sanctuary. It stems from a deeper place. And that's the meaning that tzedakah tatzil memaves. Tzedakah, charity, saves a person from death, because if a person identifies solely in their life with physicality and their appearance and externalities and the physical frameworks that they've amassed, essentially they're dead. Essentially there is no life force that underlies that type of existence.
Is that related to that, like Reshaim are dead?
Yeah, so it says,
if you don't give tzedakah, you're kind of you could be associated with Russia. So
yeah, the concept of a wicked individual is a person that is stuck in their egoic definition. And this is the first step. The most basic and simple place of identification is our externality, our physicality, the base infrastructure that we can see, feel, and touch. The next one is from Proverbs as well. It says, Soine matonois yichye, which means a person that despises presence. Not presence as in the state of being present or having a presence, but presence. A person that hates gifts will live. Who hates gifts? I mean, gifts are the best things. Getting a gift from something is the most amazing thing. Why? Why is it so good? I've amassed something new. I've developed a new identity of the self. You buy something new, a new garment, something that you've acquired, gives you a new sense of self. But essentially, if you become reliant on it, if you love it, then there is an externality that is feeding you, but the inner self is dead. So how do we deal with this? How do we address it? We'll give you two more sources that just exacerbate this concept. Look at the next page. Hu haya oimer, he would say the following: marbe bossa, marbe rima. The more flesh, the more worms. But this is a classic one. Marbe nechasim, marbe daiga. The more you have, the more you worry, the more you're anxious. So how would you understand that? How would you translate that? The more you have, the more you worry.
The more you want. The more you worry about getting.
The more you want? Why?
About getting more.
Why?
You're not satiated.
There's a lack of satiation in what you have, so you think, I need more than that. Good, that's a deeper answer. What's the most basic answer that you can give? Why would you, the more you have, the more anxious you are?
More you have to do to take care of it.
Oh, okay, these are all deep answers. The issue is I'm dealing with deep people, so, okay, what's the most basic, simple answer that you can give before we get to these deep answers? What?
A lot of things to deal with.
You got a lot of things to deal with. You got a lot of, the more you have, the more properties you have, the more businesses you have, the more anxious you are, because the more you need to work on them. The more fronts you need to participate with. But on a deeper state, which is what all of you brought, is the more you have, essentially the more cursed an individual is. In what way? What earth is that?
Trying to get out.
Yeah. Call the police.
The more you have, the more you worry.
Doing as if, the more you have, the more you worry. Exactly, it's just showing us, look at that. So, basic, simple engagement. Imagine you had a simple life, simple living. Okay, so on a basic way, like what Still is saying, is that the more you have, now the more you've established your boundaries. This is me now. This is me. So what's me encompassing of? All of these objects, all of these homes, all of these accomplishments, all of these opinions, all of these things that surround me. Now, if one of those things go faulty, now the essential self, or what you classify as the essential self, has now gone into flux, has gone into being attacked. So on a basic level, the more you have, the more now you need to contend with to manage and keep in its state. If you just have one thing, two things, you don't have much. of a simple lifestyle. Okay? You can easily replace it, not much to contend with or worry about, it's very simple. A step further is that the more you have, and this is really sometimes the curse of success. It sounds like a strange thing. How can success be a curse? But when a person is continuously successful, constantly, what starts to happen is they start to develop a shell around themselves of defining themselves by success. If their trajectory is constantly up, then now I am continuously defining myself by success. When the trajectory, which life is really up and down, you know. So what a person does in those circumstances is their success. But then there's moments of down. That down allows you to then recalibrate and say, okay, I've achieved something, I've attained something, but is that essentially me? Where a person has so many things, so much property, their anxiety is so much greater. The reason why their anxiety is so much greater is because the amount of externality, the shell that's there is so thick that they've almost forgotten about the internality. And when there's no internality, the anxiety is rife. The anxiety is, there's so much pressure to keep it up. So,
also the returns are marginal. The second success is not as nice as the first one, and the third is not as nice as the second one.
And you get addicted to it.
The fourth car is not as nice as the third one. Like the feeling you get is not as...
Get used to it, becomes callous. And if you even look at the longevity of these types of things, how much is it actually giving you? What does it give you? How deep does it go when you get something external? How much is it feeding you? How much is the accomplishment of wealth feeding you? Is it endless? So the next verse says as follows: V'yomer Avram el Narav. Avram said to the lads, Shevu lachem poi, stay here, im achamor, with the donkey, v'ani v'anar nelcha ad kaya, and me and the other lad will go further. V'nishtachave v'nashuva aleichem, and we will go and nishtachave means a sense of worship, but it's more a sense of humility. We will come to a state of humility, of bowing, which is the essential pose of humility. And then we will return to you. Now this is a very important verse in dealing with our externality. It is impossible for us in this world, as spiritual beings, to remove ourselves from physicality entirely. It's impossible. You will have some days that you're more perplexed about your appearance, more sensitive to your surroundings, more cognizant of the wealth that you have or you don't. And there are times where you're forced to engage with it. But what this verse is telling us is something very important. It says the following, according to Kabbalah. What this means is Abraham is going up the mountain and he's going to a place where he's going to see God. But he says to his servants, you stay behind with the donkey. The word donkey is the word chamor. Chamor, according to Kabbalah, or not even according to Kabbalah, you look at the word chamor, it stands for the word materialism, which is chomer. Same letters. Chomer and chamor. Chomer is physicality, is superficiality, is materialism. And what essentially Abraham is saying to these lads is saying, you guys stay behind with the physicality, with the chamor. We will go further up the mountain. We will humble ourselves. We will have moments of clarity. We will have moments of looking beyond the mirror that says, hello, gorgeous. We will have moments where we essentially, or identify essentially with that deeper self. But then the craziest thing is it says, V'nashuva aleichem, and we will return to you after that prostration. We will return to you after our state of clarity, our state of consciousness. We will return to you. Which means there is an ebb and flow of our relationship with physicality. We can't completely remove ourselves from it. But what it means is that when we engage with physicality, and this I once did when I was in the gym, so I picked up some weights. Now what do people do at the gym when they're doing weights? Chaim, what do you do at the gym? Look, maybe not you, but what do people do? This is one of the reasons why I left the point, hey? You know, they look in the mirror. You know, they look at them. You haven't seen such things, Jess, have you? But this is what generally people do. They look in the mirror and they see what does my body look like? How do I look in the mirror? Okay? And now, there's a deep beauty in the body being worked out. There's a life, there's an energy in the body. There's a very beautiful framework that's there. But when it becomes so physical, it's really just anchored in some very superficial identity, isn't it? So what I tried to do when I picked up that weight is, instead of seeing the externality, just bring yourself to the present. Almost engage with the present moment. Feel the energy, the life inside of you. Feel a sense of calm, of depth that underlies the physicality. So if you're brushing your teeth and you're checking yourself out, is the hair good, whatever it is, or you're looking somewhere and you're considering, how's my car look, whatever it is. What it's saying here is we don't have to remove our engagement entirely from physicality. It's almost impossible. But what it's saying is, when you engage with physicality, when you engage with your appearance, when you engage with the objects that surround you, slowly and subtly listen to the stillness that's behind you as well. Feel the deeper self that's there as well. Almost laugh at the fact, not in a negative way, but you see almost the hello gorgeous that's external, and then realize, 1 second, there's also something deeper here. There's something much deeper than what I'm looking at. And this is really the next source, which says, Eizahu Ashir, famous source that's brought down in the Mishnah, that says, who is a person that is wealthy? Do you know the classic answer still?
He's content with his lot.
Beautiful. Someone that is happy with his lot, or her lot. But I want to give you a deeper understanding of that. But let's see with this deep group, what do you guys come up with? What does it mean to be happy with your lot? How am I happy with my lot? Does that mean I look at my wardrobe, I look at my home, I look at the car that I drive, and I say, you know what, I actually need another car, but I'm happy with my lot, you know? Or I look at the things I have and I say I would like another suit, or I would like to buy something for this or that, but you know what, I don't really need it. Like, what does that mean to be happy with your lot? How do you actually become happy with your lot?
Maybe you're so tapped into kind of your inner self that you can see all the stuff that it's nice to have, but you just, there's a level of detachment.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
Any physical kind of accumulation has no meaning. As you say, you're satiated internally.
Oh, and that's essentially what it means to be wealthy. Beautiful, guys. That what it means to be happy with your lot is your essential lot. To be deeply satiated with your inner lot, the deep divinity or the expansiveness or the I am that's inside of you, allows an individual to be happy with their surroundings, allows an individual to be happy with their lot. It's not about coming on and saying, all right, look what I have. I know that the Torah tells me I need to be happy with what I have, so I'm going to try really hard to be happy with what I have. That's not good enough. That's not going to deal with the essential core of lacking. The essential core that's lacking is the deeper self, that is the lot that you have, that deeper connectivity, the consciousness that's inside of you.
Where do you draw the line between accumulating things and stopping? Because at some point in life, accumulation of things is correct, whereas some points it's damaging. Buying a new car, it's utilitarian, whereas buying 3 cars, it's damaging. So where do you draw the line?
I think you've answered it, no? Where it's a
Sometimes it's blurry.
It's blurry. Okay, what do you say, Jess?
I think the ordinary kind of, in the ordinary accumulation of life, so the things that you go on through life accumulating as a function of life, if you know what I mean, as a way of moving through life, you accumulate stuff. I think that's kind of the limit. I think once you say, obviously, accumulating more than what is necessary or what is, just to get by.
Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit controversial here. Okay? Accumulating something that's beautiful, just because it's beautiful, just because you see a beauty in it, could be an artwork, it could be an object, it could be a nice garment. There's nothing wrong with having beautiful things. There's nothing wrong in looking good and taking a sense of appreciation in the bounty and the blessing that surrounds you. Where it becomes stale, where it becomes rife, is when a person's identity is premised on those objects and the accumulation of those objects. So, yes, we will utilize objects sometimes to lift us up, sometimes. Be aware of it. Have a still conscious awareness. Why am I getting this? But sometimes you need to pick me up. Sometimes the ego needs a quick fix. So what this is purely teaching us on a basic level is awareness. So identity with the ego and saying, wow, that's me, I need that. No, I know that's not me. I know there's a deeper self there. So when you get a haircut, or when you go and get something new and there's a spark of, oh, I feel so good about myself, or I feel so good internally, emotionally, I understand that what all that is the ego being fed in a very, very abrupt or almost callous manner, but it gives you a sense of feeling enlivened. That's one concept that I want to bring. Another concept is the following. To have beautiful things just because there's a deep resonance or relationship with that beauty. Not because it defines you, but just because you sense a relationship with that. It's a beauty, there's a relationship, there's an engagement with objects, which just is. It's not because it's an extension of you. You are you. And the deeper way of identifying if you're deeply resonating with that thing, relating to that object as opposed to identifying with that object, is if you've tapped into your deepest state of consciousness and you feel a deep satiation and stillness inside of you, a stillness, an expansive stillness of silence, just the deeper I am that you are there with that. And you look at that object and say, do I really need it? I really need that. That is a quick tell sign of essentially who you are, of what's taking place there. Okay, so it's an indication. Yeah. So to give you an easy barometer of saying when is it wrong, when is it right? Yes, maybe when something's excessive, it's excessive. Okay. Yeah, maybe being excessive is a good indication of something that it's not good enough. I just bought something and I need something more. I bought my daughter some shoes, and then the awesome shoes. It was the most beautiful experience. I loved buying them shoes. And then on the way back, she starts telling me how she wants to get brown boots. So I said to her on the spot, it wasn't abrasive, and she wasn't saying it in a negative way. She was just talking in her mind, saying how she wishes she also has brown boots. I said to her, it's crazy. If I asked you if you needed anything before we bought you these new shoes, would you think you need brown boots as well? You weren't probably even thinking about brown boots. You were thinking, I'm getting a new pair of shoes. Wow, that's so exciting. But once you got the new shoes, now I need the brown boots. And now I got the brown boots, I need the this and a that and a this and a that. So now endlessness, a quick telltale sign of the ego is more. You want more? You've been infected. You want more? You're stuck in the external, yeah?
Can I just ask, is this definition of happiness based on the lot that you just described? Is it based on the assumption that without materialism you'll be happy? Is that the assumption?
I don't think so.
So then
I think that...
what do you mean by, take materialism or things out of this, what do you mean by being happy with your lot?
So what it means to be happy with your lot means that by being or identifying primarily, not secondary, but primarily with the deepest state of being, the deepest sense of I am, not the emotions and not the externality, just a deep sense of consciousness. If that is your primary definition of who you are, which is essentially your lot, that's your lot, which is your neshama, your deeper resonance of spirituality connected to all of the expansiveness in the universe, which is your divinity. When that is your primary state, when that is your primary established lot, what happens now is you're wealthy. What wealth looks like is on the superficial level, you're happy with your lot. You don't need more. You don't need to be excessive. You're happy with what you have around you. Because you're not essentially hungry for more. You're able to now engage with things because they're things. You're relating to it rather than identifying with it. Because when you identify with it, I actually can't relate to the object. It's become me. But me is empty. So this is all now also empty. So now I need something else to find me. Does that make sense? Doesn't look like it.
I don't know, it says, what does it mean to be happy? To be happy
with your lot. What it means to be happy with your lot. What it means to be happy with your lot is that you don't need.
But you're using happy in the word of answer.
I think it's the lack of desire. With what you have, given what you have, you're not desiring anything external to kind of complete you in any way, or fulfill you in any way, or give you any additional real kind of sense of happiness or satisfaction. So essentially the essentials, and I guess transcending the materialism, is probably the relationships and the love in your life. The stuff beyond your car, your clothes. I think that's the idea.
Yes. And I think you're asking about the word specifically about happiness. Why doesn't it say be content? So happiness, we'll speak about it the next time we meet, is a word that is synonymous with expansion. Sameach comes from the word sameach, to expand or to sprout out. Now, when there is a simcha of expansion, but internal expansion, when there's a deep resonance of the inner self, of the inner connectivity, which is a sense of depth, of expanding, then what that gives you is a satiated feeling that you don't need to expand as much in the physical world. You don't need to amass more to gain more land, so to speak, to expand in that framework, because you're expanding internally. You still are going to have to return to the physical world. We're not completely removing ourselves and becoming bereft of all physicality. But we're relating to physicality as opposed to identifying with physicality. That's a very different way of living.
Can I say something about it? Also, just going back to the answer that you gave just now about what is too much, anything that's excessive, because excessive is very relative. What's excessive for me and someone off the street or Bill Gates are three completely different things. And sometimes it's very nuanced. This idea of awareness of the ego and feeding the deeper self can become a very nuanced thing in that you can do something which essentially may come from a place of a deeper self, not from the ego, but people could then respond in a way that then perhaps feeds your ego or something like that, and then from this, this artwork that you bought, which was just your vibration with this piece, that you were appreciating, and you weren't buying it so that people could see it in your place. But then all of a sudden, maybe in a different context later on,
it might come up in
your visitors are then applauding you on it, and you're getting this kind of like, I'm the man, because I've got this art piece in my house. Or that's just an example. It can even be in the actual act. You perhaps getting to duck on the side of the street or whatever, and I don't know, a beautiful woman notices you're married.
My wife notices.
Your wife notices, and then are you doing it for that person out of a genuine selfless act, or is it now to be seen to be that person?
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I think I'm just sharing my own awareness of this. It becomes very nuanced, and sometimes I catch myself doing something and I really have to look deep. What am I actually doing here? Is this really the deeper self speaking, or is it the ego?
Yes.
And it's not so clear.
Yes.
So I think in terms of this excessiveness, because you said that we fluctuate in and out of the material world. At the end of the day, we're here, So the clothes, what we look like, matter. Whether we like it or not. If you walk into a job interview, the person's going to notice kind of how you kept, what you're wearing, or even just you walk past someone on the street. For sure, we don't need to be all caught up in what we look like constantly, but if you don't look at yourself in a week or whatever and you look completely disheveled, it's going to have a real impact on your life, actually, the way that people perceive you, the way that people think of you, and that could set a certain course. So when the external structures that we're living in are actually defined in a framework that feeds the exact things that we actually meant to now step away from, it becomes a very difficult balancing act. Not looking in the mirror because I don't want to be vain, but at the same time, if I don't look in the mirror and fix myself up and look fresh today, my boss is going to think X, Y, and Z. The people are going to think that X, Y. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's real effects in your life.
So that's a very important point. It's a beautiful point you're making, and it's important to understand that we are engaging with the world. And even while you're doing your hair, that your boss, or whoever's going to notice you is going to think this or that, look at it in the way of the hello gorgeous. Look at it in the way of there is this, and then there's something underneath this as well. So don't be too perplexed. I mean, the ego can also start killing you, saying, look how egoic I am, look how stuck into my appearance I am, look how external and superficial I am. No. Do what you need to do, and then go weiter, which means go forward. And there's a breath of in and out, oscillating between conscious and returning to a state of engaging with the ego, but consciously engaging with the ego. Abraham says to the servants, I'm going up and I'm going to be humbled, and I'm going to prostrate myself to God. But then I'll return to you who's staying with the chamor, with the externalities. I will return there. It's a hectic statement to make. Most people think about you get to a state and that's all you are. State of consciousness. No. The oscillation between that is really part and parcel of that consciousness. It's easy to be conscious here, but can you be conscious while you're doing your hair? Well, that's a different state. Okay, now to bring consciousness into that physicality, to bring consciousness into the eating, to bring consciousness into to your engagement with objects, that's an amazing, amazing thing to do. There's divinity and there's life in physicality as well.
So is the underlying purpose here not complete dissolution of that state? No,
exactly. We are not here to dissolve the state of physicality. What we're here to do is identify or create a primary identity, develop and cultivate a primary identity and a secondary identity. So our primary identity is the inner stillness, is the I am, without an answer is the deeper consciousness, expansiveness, resonance. That's the primary identity. The secondary identity is all of the other things that surround you, your job, your relationships, your physicality, your experiences. But when those things become primary, when life is about what you amass, it becomes a negative place. It becomes a place of pain. I'll give you an example, which really shocked me, and you won't understand why it shocked me, but it was a very subtle experience for me. I was in Australia, and there's a beautiful area in Australia where all the very, very gorgeous, it's like the Fresno of Australia, yeah? And the area is called Vaucluse. Okay, beautiful, beautiful area. Amazing homes, looking over, the harbor, really amazing place. And one weekend I was there with my wife, and we were going for a walk. And as we were walking along this absolutely gorgeous, almost like a coastal walk, I saw this ship, or not a ship, a boat, this really exclusive, expensive, luxury boat. And I saw a huge amount of young adults on this boat having a party on a Sunday morning or afternoon. And the general feeling that I would get seeing that is like a real punch in the stomach. Almost like, like I want to be there, or I want that. I want that experience. I want that. I want it to be mine. Why don't I have that? Imagine if it was my boat and these were all my people and I had that experience. And what hit me, and this was after just coming back from yeshiva, about 7.5 years in Israel, came back, and what hit me was a moment of consciousness, a moment of clarity, where I realized I didn't have that feeling. It may have come back out in another circumstance, but where it was always there, where I would always drive past the house and say, if I only had that, and drive past the car if I only had that, and drive past this and if I had that. I saw that and I was like, that's there, I'm here, and I don't really care. And then you go on with your presence of where you are. That's what it means to relate rather than identify with physicality. That's what it means to live a life where you can be in beautiful surroundings, people with immense affluence, and you don't really care. It's really nice, the beauty, the bounty, the luxurious, gorgeous aspect of it. I mean, the whole class tonight is about physicality, and we're in a beautiful loft overlooking, you haven't even seen these views, That's why we're here, to understand that it's not about being in dissonance with physicality. It's about relating with yourself primarily in a deeper way, and then your engagement with physicality secondary. But when it flips, when it's excessive, when there's pain, that's a good indication. When there's pain of what you don't have, that's now an indication. So now Yes? No, you don't want to say something. The final thing I want to show you is the source in Shoftim and Judges. So this is a famous case where there was a prophet called Gideon, and I think he amassed about 32,000 troops to wage war against an enemy of Israel. And Hashem said to him, there's too many troops. Do you know what the test was in order to ascertain which troops will go out to war and which won't? Famous case. Do you know how Gideon tested the troops? He told them to go down to the river. That's what God told him to do. Go down to the river and to drink from the water. You familiar with this case? Not really? So now, it says the following. So he took the troops down to the water. Then Hashem said to Gideon, set apart all those who lap up the water with their tongues like dogs from all those who get down on their knees to drink. So how do you lap up water? You go down like a dog. And how else do you drink water? You cup your hands and you bring the water up to you. What do you think the symbolism in that is? We'll let you out soon. What's the answer? What's the symbolism?
Greed plus appreciation.
Saying the hand movement of appreciation, yeah.
Greed is like just going.
It's like it's something to do with when you do Almutinasana and then you lift your hands up.
There's an aspect to it, yeah, maybe. Not the specific answer that I want to give you. So it struck me when I was teaching this that this is really the interrelationship in a negative way with physicality and a positive way with physicality. When physicality has become something that you now go down to, your whole essence goes down to, and you're completely dissolved in it. It takes you by your throat and pulls you into that reality. That the wealth or who you're dating or what their appearance is or your appearance is or the type takes you in to an extent that you're just lapping it up like a dog, that you've gone down to it, then that's a very telltale indication of it being unhealthy. When you are taking the physicality in your arms, so essentially you are the primary essence of it, and you're lifting it to you as the secondary essence, or the secondary framework here, and you're engaging with it, that's an indication that you're okay. You're in a place of healthy engagement, a relationship with this world, rather than an identity with this world. Okay, that's I think a beautiful analogy that's brought out, and this is really, you know how many people were left after the 32,000 went down to drink? How many do you think were left behind?
300.
What?
300.
Very good. How do you know? It says it here. 300 were left behind, hey? 300 out of 32,000 people. 300 were left behind. That they weren't completely struck by their physical realities. Guess on a simple state, I'll bring you a quote. True joy comes from within and not without. Now, it's such a simple quote. It's such a simple quote. True joy comes from within and not without. From without. Such a simple quote. I mean, like, obviously. But if you really understand what that means, when you say to yourself, when you find yourself in a situation where you're constantly looking in the mirror, or constantly tending to that car that you see, or constantly looking outside of yourself, and you simply say to yourself, true joy comes from within and not from without. It's a very, very easy phrase to remind yourself about what's taking place here and bring your conscious awareness back. I'll just end off with the following thing that took place. The other day I was given the opportunity to pick up the kids, and Sarah, my wife, told me, you know, while you pick up the kids, can you go pick up my shaitel? Okay, so a shaitel, we know, is a wig that religious women wear. So it was recently done. So I went, you heard this story already. So I went, you heard this as well? No. I went to pick up the kids, and I was holding the kids in a number of hands. I had a few other things like shopping and food and all these different things. So I didn't know where to put the shaitel. So I put it on. And the kids were like taken back a bit, but they're sort of used to me doing these crazy things. And I was in the car and I was thinking to myself, you know, like, let me do this. Let me drive in the streets of Sea Point back to my home, where probably a lot of my congregants will see me, people that I know will see me. Let me go and drive. I mean, this is a crazy sight. Imagine long curly women's hair with like this rough beard and glasses. You know, it's like a really ugly sight, you know. But I was like, you know what? Let me do it. And it was the most freeing and beautiful experience to be able to just go in the car out in public, not give, not care, not really feel, very much enslaved by your appearance.